but you only had 4. Whereas now, on any given day, you could walk away from school with 6. And, you know, a teacher in math may not be talking to the teacher in social studies, may not be talking to the teacher in English, to the art teacher, and perhaps, especially when it gets closer to reporting periods, you know, everybody has that end of the unit culminating activity that tends to be involved, and all of a sudden you got 6 versus 4. So you had 4 in the fall, 4 in the spring. It does hit the students differently. I mean, it's similar to the transition sometimes students see in the opposite direction when they go off to college and they take what they used to take in a year, they take it in half a semester in the fall in the college, and they go, oh my God, it's a lot of work. And it's like maybe not different, but it's more compacted. So some of that, I guess we could try to develop some protocols where people talk to each other and try to stay away from everybody giving the big test on the same day of the same week. But some of it is just built into the structure that you put in place.
I know from experience too, as far as the scheduling, it's been harder for my daughter. She was looked at or asked to take an AP history class, which runs 2 blocks. So she can't take her Portuguese class, which runs equal to that. So she opted for the Portuguese and the honors history instead of the AP. So and there's other students in the same boat that are not able to take those classes because they don't have as many options. That goes back to the 6 and 8. They just don't have as much time, class time.
You know, going back to that, we do have a few classes that run 2 periods because there's no other way to do it. And again, if you start doing that with classes like perhaps physics, like you could have a double period, or, 5 periods, 5 days, 1 period, 2-3 days, another extra period in there to provide additional time. But again, you're running into the problem of, now we're going to have to hire a part-time person to fill in the gap because we just don't have enough staff. So the previous schedule had a few extra people in it, which are no longer here.
Right. I do hope personally, though, if we do have to stick with a 6 period because there is no other option, that maybe at least we can look at some of the graduation requirements for the kids that are also sort of sticking in there, making it harder for them to get their scheduling done, because now they have to take government. They weren't able to fit it in. They have to take personal finance. Is there a way to maybe work those into some classes so they can still fit in their Portuguese classes or whatever? I mean, I don't know if that's something that you can explore as well, so there's not quite as much conflict for some of the kids.
We have been exploring that, especially relative to the AP US history, because the teacher who teaches the AP US history does feel that the government component in AP US history more than satisfies the government class that's an elective for the non-AP US history students. So yes, we are looking at things like that.
Good. Anybody else?
The only comment, if I could, through the chair, is the third option, which we touched upon when we had previous discussion last session, of a hybrid system. If that is anything that's an example out there, that perhaps look at that. Where, and I know that the size enrollment might not lend itself well to that, but I envision if certain subjects had a component of block scheduling where other subjects didn't, double classes versus single, as you said, and there may be a solution there. But the impacts, if in fact the impacts as reported here are directly attributed to the change in scheduling, I'm concerned, as I'm sure you are. So
I am, but I also have to caution myself that this is year 1, and I think anytime you make a change, you have to expect you're going to see some things in year 1, and until you've gone more than 1 year, you can't really attribute it to the one thing.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Thank you, Mrs. Tudor.
Thank you.
Report on FinCom.
No, Mr. Simonelli, let's see,
Oh,
sorry.
principals, plural.
As the projector is out, there's a handout here. No, I was not prepared. Beth Lewis made me the copy. He's a lifesaver.
Let's change.
Okay. The middle school schedule. The whole development of the schedule began, the staff began talking about it way back in October. Last year's school schedule and this year's school schedule is really dramatically different. And as they started working with the schedule in September and October, a lot of them had some thoughts and discussions, and through emails were just talking about, some suggestions and some concerns that they had as they started out the school year. I had met with the superintendent, and he had kind of given me a rough outline of when he wanted the schedules to be worked upon and looked at and kind of finished. So in September, I sent out an email for suggestions, and that was in February, for them to get back to me with some suggestions upon what they thought a new schedule for the middle school should look like, some components that they would like in the new schedule. In the month of March, we had some meetings with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and the director of special ed to look at the ramifications of the special ed population, the double periods that we have at the middle school, and the fifth grade class, sixth grade class, the incoming fourth grade class, what we're going to be looking at for the language-based classroom and things like that. In March, I narrowed down all of the suggestions that the staff had come up with into basic 4 important ideas that they came forward with. They were looking at some of the difficulties with this schedule was that it was not a rotating schedule. They were looking at the lunches. We narrowed it down to 3 lunches instead of 4 lunches. They looking at the enrichment periods and the homeroom period. We'd moved the homeroom period from the beginning part of the school day to third period, hoping to alleviate the tardy issue at the school. So I sent that back to them with those 4 major topics. Let me know what you felt your priority, what's most important, least important. Through that, and again, some more meetings with the superintendent, assistant superintendent, and the special needs director, I started to develop a draft schedule. I reviewed it with the staff in the April faculty meeting to get some further input. We are now continuing to have meetings now to look at student placement, and hopefully in the beginning of June I can have a finalized schedule, and we can look at teacher assignments and where people will be working next year. And hopefully that'll be sometime in the beginning.